Hello, and welcome to a Broken Binding unboxing. This, my friends, is Once There Were Heroes by Philip C Quaintrell, which is the first book in A Time of Dragons, which, interestingly enough, if on the Broken Binding, they have the titles flipped. I don't know if that is an error on the Broken Binding side, or if it's perhaps just because maybe the names are actually legitimately flipped in the UK. Maybe, they're like, hey, the title is one thing in the US, but it's, and the series name is, inverted over there. Who knows? But as far as I can tell, here in the US, the book is Once They Were Heroes. And, whereas on the Broken Binding, they have it as if that is the series name. But anyways, I'm getting away from myself. Here is, as it's depicted here, A Time of Dragons, Once There Were Heroes. And, like I said, Philip C Quaintrell. And, yeah, interestingly enough, like I said on the spine, A Time of Dragons, Once There Were Heroes, #1. Which, like I said, it seems to be different, because here in the U.S., the sequel, which I think is like In the Shadow of Kings, once again has A Time of Dragons in big old text on the center. Wow. Oh, wow, look at that. Catrina Barquist stenciling there. This is a heavy book. Holy crap. This is the first release that the Broken Binding has done through their Endless Indie line. So they announced this Endless Indie line, which is not a limited edition. This is an open limitation. The only major change is that once the first printing sells out, the second printing will be labeled second printing, and so on and so forth. But you can continue to buy this for as long as they have the rights. So you have some quotes on the back there. I believe this is more stenciling by Catrina Barquist. One thing that's really cool about these indie editions is that they do have the nicer paper stock, and they do have a sewn binding, which is just incredible. So it's almost like higher quality, like the TDB press books. They are, of course, signed by Quaintrell. There we go. It does say second printing here, because this is not the first printing. I slept on this one. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, it's endless, I gotta hold them to it. I gotta wait. Couldn't justify buying this right away, even though it does sound very fascinating. This is a novel set in a world where there were once heroes. Ha ha ha! Look at that. Anyways. This is a world where there used to be dragon riders. Heroes would be given a dragon egg. They would help that egg to hatch, help that dragon to grow, and then gloriously ride said dragon into battle. But the world has changed. The gods are dead. So just like many, many fantasy titles out there, there's probably going to be some sort of hero who's going to be just deemed the chosen one, who has to, become a dragon rider. I'm not judging. It's a trope that's been done time and time again. It's, as long as it's done well, or rel, as I just pronounced it. As long as it's done well, I'm totally fine with it. And, well, based on the reviews I've seen for this title, it's done very well. So I'm excited to dive in. This is, not that this reminds me of The Last War by Mike Shackle, but the whole, no more heroes, once there were heroes, sort of We Are the Dead kind of vibes to it really make it intriguing to me. Obviously, there were no dragons in The Last War. There are dragons in this, though. Wow, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to reading this one. And I don't know if it's a duology or it's just been 2 novels published thus far. But as I said, there is a second one, which I think is called In the Shadow of Kings, which I imagine will likely get the broken binding treatment as well. I don't know a time frame about that. Obviously, there's no confirmation. I mean, the novel sold well enough that it, went on to a second printing, so that's hopeful. And I'm amazed at how affordable this edition is, even with the sewn binding and even with the nicer paper. And yeah, I love that. I mean, that's one of my biggest complaints with the broken binding is that, you have glued spines for their subscription series. The paper doesn't really bother me as much because, I try to wash my hands and thoroughly dry them before reading any physical books, and I'm not really reading with food or drinks, so I shouldn't, be making the papers, degrade. Although if it's not acid-free, if it's like some crappier quality paper, I mean, it's just going to happen naturally. But it's really the bindings, the glued bindings that bug me, especially for larger titles like this, just because you aren't going to be able to read that many times before you quite literally have a broken binding. And I mean, it's a cool namesake to have, but it's a cool name to have as your brand, but not cool to actually have broken bindings in your books. And, the Malazan Books of the Fallen, the Erickson titles, are right around the corner from the broken binding, and those have glued bindings, which really bothers me, because those novels are huge. You think this novel's big. Those things are going to break your bookshelf. They're going to warp the hell out of your shelves if it's a weaker shelf. Which is just a shame. I mean, I know the prices would be outlandish if you had a sewn binding for those, but it's like those editions are going to be very much look but don't touch. Like, they're going to be very beautiful to look at. I'm going to probably buy them just because I like the idea of the exclusive artwork, but I'm not actually going to read those editions because it's going to absolutely destroy the books. But anyways, I'm just rambling now. But fingers crossed. I know they'd floated the idea of upgrading their subscription series to getting a sewn binding, and I say yes, please do so. It hasn't happened. There was a rumor. One of the people had misspoke about the Northern Wrath trilogy having a sewn binding. That was revealed to be false. But my fingers are still crossed that down the road we might get sewn bindings for more broken binding titles, just because it's incredible. And, I mean, with this particular case, with this particular novel, I mean, it still ended up being very affordable for a nice quality book. So anyways, like I said, I'm just rambling now. I will eventually give this a read. Once I do, I will do a book review here on the channel. I do have plenty of other unboxing videos that you can check out in the meantime, including the monthly fantasy subscription from the Broken Binding. It's a huge wait list on that one. It's going to take forever for you to get on that subscription if you aren't already on the wait list. So by all means, live vicariously through me, subscribe to the channel, and you can just check out the beautiful editions via these videos. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you around next time.